you need scale just to keep pace, right? Like at the end of the day, that's becoming so critically important.
Yep.
And we think there's a large number of RIAs that are supporting 10 to 50 advisors out there that might be falling behind or might need a succession solution or might just see the benefit of aligning with something like we've created. I think you'll see more of that from us in 2026.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Don't Do That podcast. I am your host, Kelly Waltrich, and I am so jazzed today. I have with me Nate Lenz, the CEO and co-founder of Concurrent. What's up, Nate? How are you?
Hey, Kelly. Happy to be here.
How's it going?
It's going well.
Good.
Can't complain.
Guys, I can't tell you enough about Nate and his firm. I think we have two camps in when it comes to RIAs, the ones that are cool with the status quo, the ones that are moving along, they're building lifestyle practices, and the ones that are off to the races and you can't even see them because you are in their dust. And Nate and firm are leading the way in that second pack. I feel like you guys are always moving and shaking. Every time I look, there's new news, something strategic and exciting that you guys are working on. So tell us a little bit about your firm. Tell us a little bit about some of the recent headlines we've seen about you guys and how are you making it all happen?
Yeah. And I wish the story was always so like linear. Like it sounds great, just rocket ship to the moon,
Yes.
straight upward trajectory, and as you know, I know you know it too well. The path is much less linear, right? I always love that like business clip art that you could find where it's like, okay, the entrepreneur's like expectation versus reality.
Yeah.
I feel like we live that every day is you start to go up and you fall off a cliff and then you swim across shark infested waters. You climb up again and get your legs taken out from under you. So that's no, that is absolutely our story. But no, we've got some really positive momentum right now. And like you said, I think we occupy a really interesting space within the independent landscape, right? When you think about Concurrent, the way we position ourselves is we're a platform for and strategic investor in independent wealth firms. I was talking to someone the other day and they said, look, your story is really not muddled. You kind of understand who you are. And it was related to a recent news item that we had that you might be referring to. We just acquired a $10 billion in AUA retirement business, right? Which is not, when you think about platform and partnership, how does retirement plan consulting business fit in the mix there? But we can kind of get into that. But I think when you think about our business, the platform side of it is, we're a middle and back office service provider for independent wealth managers. We believe that advisors are independent for a reason. And, we want them to be not just independent in terms of 1099 versus W-2, but in being able to be objective in the advice that they give. Right. And so from our perspective, we're operating as a multi-custodial hybrid RIA. And we believe in choice. We believe in maintaining their autonomy. We talk a lot about the idea of advisor centricity, which is, clients gravitate towards their advisors because they're like-minded, they share their values, they're best equipped to serve their niche. And so we think, we'd be doing ourselves and them a disservice to try to disintermediate from their clients in any way. So we celebrate independence and, by providing the middle and back office, we can give them the benefit of our scale, our resources, our technology, but do so in a wrapper where they still maintain full operational control. And we think that's the right recipe, especially in this environment, right? Most advisors that are in the space, whether they're still sitting in a wirehouse, they're sitting in an IBD, they've already got their own RIA, they're affiliated with an RIA. At the end of the day, these guys and girls are entrepreneurs at heart, right? They built these businesses from the ground up.
Yep.
And so, we want to provide a haven for entrepreneurship in that platform side of our business. Now, something that was actually born out of necessity back in 2020, 2021 is our partnership model. A little bit of my background, I ran the succession and acquisitions group at Raymond James. So I grew up on the practice management, business consulting, M&A side of the space. So this is kind of near and dear to my heart, but what we started to roll out back in 2020, we took on a minority investment from Merchant Wealth Partners. They, at that point, bought 19.9% of our business. And what we used that capital for was to start to make minority investments in the firms that were leveraging our platform, which was set up as an OSJ at that time. Obviously, we've now made the evolution to the RIA space, but we were still operating in an OSJ capacity then. At that time, a lot of the advisors, as we were out in the field rolling that out, they looked at us like we had three heads. Like, what do you mean you want to buy a minority piece of my business? Like, what for? Like, why would I give any of that up?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it seems like as an industry that pendulum has swung pretty significantly, and we just have had the benefit of some scraped knees and bloodied elbows over the last 5 years or so of operating that model. But what we found in that capacity is, there's a lot of firms that are looking to either de-risk, that want help facilitating succession. That's a big problem, I
Yep,
think, in this space right now,
for sure.
and or need capital for growth, specifically inorganic growth. And so, alongside of our middle and back office service platform, where we stay in our lane, we know our role. Um, you know, we also have this partnership model that's optional. No firms are required to participate in it, but that we found highly effective in helping them solve for some of those key items that I just mentioned.
So what percent of firms are you seeing want to adopt that model?
So we have about 76 firms on our platform. It's about 145 IARs, and then we also have minority equity stakes in four separate RIAs that maintain their own AEV. That's
Mm-hmm.
another one of those news items I think that came out a few months ago of
Yep.
things that
I'm
we're
looking
now
at them
doing.
all now. Yep.
Another one that was kind of born out of necessity, but we
Yeah.
can talk about that. But of the 76 firms that are affiliated with our RIA, we have minority equity stakes in 74 of them.
Wow.
So vast majority, it wasn't that way out of the gate, but
Yeah.
over time, and I think, as advisors kind of work through the life cycle of their business,
Mm-hmm.
there become points in time where it's advantageous for a lot of those reasons, right? I want to take some chips off the table. I want to sell a portion of my business to a junior advisor that we've created a career path for. How do we sell them equity, or essentially co-invest alongside of them and subsidize their purchase of equity, right? There's a lot of different use cases. I'm looking at an acquisition, but multiples are highly competitive. Is there a way that I can be competitive in multiple by taking on some equity capital alongside of debt to be able to get that deal done, right? Those will happen across the life
Interesting.
cycle of these businesses, especially
Yeah.
ones that are in growth mode and that are building teams. So over time, we've really seen the adoption of that minority investment program uh, grow significantly, but it's been as a result of some of those different catalysts within their business.
Got it. And so what do you think made the pendulum swing? Is it the age of the advisor population at this point, or what's playing into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one part of it. I do think it's become more mainstream, right?
Yeah.
As all the major private equity firms kind of choose their horses. Some
Yeah.
have swapped horses. Um, you've seen a huge rise in just private equity backed roll ups. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
looking at what did the Fidelity had released a study recently, and it looked at transactions on their platform, and I think it was something like 76% of the deals done so far this year were done by private equity backed roll-ups. And so
Wow.
you're just seeing this huge occurrence of deals getting done. Now, in most cases, right, those deals are full acquisition,
Mm-hmm.
um, which I would say makes sense in some instances. If an advisor is ready to hang it up, walk away, they're looking to fully monetize their business, and they're comfortable going from entrepreneur to an employee, that can be a great solution. Where I think we fit is that there's a large subset of advisors that aren't quite ready to do that, that still have some gas in the tank, that
Mm-hmm.
are still in growth mode, that want to maintain control of their business, but think it's advantageous to potentially de-risk and take some chips off the table. That's where we seem to play. And we think there's a very large addressable market for that. So I think it's a combination of aging demographics, continued investment in the space, um, and look, it's become much more mainstream, right? You're
Yeah.
seeing a lot of those transactions. Every publication, you're seeing another transaction, every other day. So I think there's a little bit of FOMO going on as well.
Yeah.
Of I want some of that action, or am I going to miss my chance?
So multiples are continuously increasing. It seems wild to me. Like, what's your view on that? And what does it take from a firm like yours to make sure that you get a return on investment? Because we're in an interesting moment, it feels like.
The short answer is it takes discipline,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to reach for the wrong opportunity. I do think our model is actually a little bit biased to putting us in a better position, because at the end of the day, the firms that tend to be a good fit for what we're doing are firms that are in growth mode.
Yeah.
Right? Like the firm that comes to us and says, hey, look, we're interested in taking on a minority equity partner because we want to go and, take on these inorganic growth opportunities or whatever it might be. That firm is inherently in growth mode. And
Yep.
so, and look, that's the key. If you're going to pay a premium multiple for a business, a key function is, you want steady and ideally growing cash flow to get you the return characteristics that you're looking for in deploying
Right.
that capital. So
Right.
the fact that, our teams tend to be younger, tend to be biased towards growth, I think is a positive for our model and kind of comes with the territory,
Mm-hmm.
right? A minority type structure versus a full acquisition. You probably have a little bit of adverse selection bias. You have firms that are looking to hang it up, and so therefore they probably plateaued already if they're getting to that point, or they're not pounding the pavement as hard as they necessarily used to. So I think that contributes to it. But discipline, right? Doing the right deals. And I think if you look at where we're focused, our core investment model is minority non-controlled deals in independent wealth management businesses,
Yep.
right? Retail focused across client segments. So some high net worth, ultra high net worth, some mass affluent, not really discriminatory there. Um, but where we're looking at larger acquisition opportunities, next retirement solutions being one of those, um, I would say are in areas where the business lines are complementary. So looking at Next, for example, that was a 10 billion in AUA institutional consultant working primarily with companies on their 401k plans. There's a little bit of DB business in there as well, but primarily DC working with plan sponsors in I'll call it the mid-sized plan space that average of like 40 to 60 million in AUA within those underlying plans. The reason that was an attractive acquisition opportunity for us is that one, they've been in the family for a long time. They were leveraging our platform,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we were supporting their business from a compliance, ops, technology, billing, and finance functions. We were, so we're intimately familiar with their business. They were actually one of the founding partner firms within Concurrent. So they were there from day one. So intimately familiar with the business, but really in knowing it so well, understood the caliber of the people within
Mm-hmm.
that organization. So they've got three great institutional consultants that are acting as relationship managers with the underlying plan business. We were able to bring in a gentleman, David Montgomery, in anticipation of this deal from One Digital, with has a tremendous background and experience in the space. That's now the managing director of that business unit for us. So, the fact that it was a complementary business line, it had a great team in place that really created the foundation that we could go vertical on, right? And
Yep.
and that's so. I think as you think about our as we go forward, the types of acquisitions that we're looking for are situations like that can be complementary, where there's already a great foundation. We're not having to reinvent the wheel. What you're not going to see us do is go start acquiring books of business for succession purposes at
Mm-hmm.
the current level. We leave that to our partner firms in the field,
Mm-hmm.
right? We're a platform. If there's a succession need, we want to partner with and co-invest with our underlying partner firms to solve that need. Um, but in a situation like Next, that business will now open up the opportunity for us to attract and support more institutional teams from a platform perspective.
Mm-hmm.
We believe there's a growth opportunity in the retirement plan space. But really, I think one of the most important parts of our investment thesis there is that within those plans, there's about 150,000 underlying participants. And so we look at that as a great potential organic growth driver and also a great training ground for new advisors coming into the business.
I love it.
So we have a planning desk, like that's where we're going to be able to serve those underlying participants from a financial planning, financial education, financial wellness standpoint, and that'll give us the bandwidth to be able to make more hires, to train and develop new talent that can be then deployed into our partner firms to help solve for succession. Which, as you alluded to earlier, the aging demographics and the lack of training and patience in our space, I think, are huge motivators for us to say, okay, we need to help fill this gap, and we think we're well positioned to do so.
I love it. When I saw the press release come through, what went through my head was I am surprised that more firms don't do more creative acquisitions. It's always like this AUM firm acquired this AUM firm, and I get it. I get it. Okay, that's the easy thing to do, but there's so many in my mind and we don't need to give all our secrets away today because I feel like, I don't know, but there's just so many creative things firms could do to grow. And I think you nailed it with that. Like looking for an opportunity to serve all of those retail investors, looking for an opportunity to create an educational system. I just don't, I truly, what went through my head was, why don't we see more of this?
It's interesting, and I think for us, this was a great first step in that direction, again, because of the people. So
Yeah.
now we can go do more. We can build on that business because we have that foundational team in place. But you mentioned earlier, like, how are we thinking about multiples? If you can go find some of these corners of the space, right, that may not be as cut and dry. It's
Yeah.
not the, 200 million in AUM firm looking to sell 100% of their business
Right.
to fold in, right? And, it's if we can find some of these other corners that we're uniquely positioned to, strategically fit with, I think that's where we have a lot of opportunity. And retirement plan business is one. I also think another area that we're very much focused on going into 2026 are other firms that look like us. So platform
Platforms.
businesses supporting other advisors that could benefit from our scale and resources and the investments that we're making in things like our data infrastructure and our team. I think that it's becoming it's a scale. You need scale just to keep pace, right? Like at the end of the day, that's becoming so critically important.
Yep.
And we think there's a large number of RIAs that are supporting 10 to 50 advisors out there, that might be falling behind or might need a succession solution or might just see the benefit of aligning with something like we've created. I think you'll see more of that from us in 2026.
Very cool. All right. So I've asked a couple of my guests this, and I've gotten some okay answers, some other generic ones. You said earlier that you look for firms that are in growth mode. I get it. I get the obvious indicators of that. Like you look at the financials, they're growing. Okay, I understand. But give me, how do you suss out people where they didn't have just the best year of their lives and it's all downhill from here? Like how are you finding the firms that are in true growth mode?
Mhm.
Because from my seat, it's few and far between. And ho what's the secret to, what are the things? What are you looking for? What are you
Yeah,
talking to your team about when you have conversations with these firms?
I would say that the firms that we're best equipped to serve are the firms that are in this transitionary phase where they're going from having built a well-established practice to trying to build something more than that,
Yeah.
right? And that can be, hey, we want to start to build out our team and create specialization, and we need to make hires because we've got this great organic growth engine, right? And you can look at net flows and things like that to determine that.
Right.
But typically speaking, if someone's coming to you saying, hey, I'm looking to hire service advisors to come on my team because I need to create capacity because I've got more than I can handle,
Yep.
right? That's a great indication of, okay, if they're willing to step up and take that risk and make those hires, they just need help on how to do it, how to comp them, where to find them, how to create career paths for them. That's a great indication. And we're very well equipped to help solve that issue. The other one that I think we're well positioned for, and we've had recently up in your neck of the woods, we had a team join Cornerstone up in the Philly area,
Awesome.
former UBS branch manager, right? That's looking to build out an enterprise, wants to bring in and affiliate other advisors, right, within their organization. And we've I think run that playbook very successfully across a number of different markets across the country. We call it our builder firm model, but that's
Mhm.
another indicator of, hey, I've created a great practice. I want to build an enterprise. I want to recruit advisors, leverage my existing infrastructure as a value prop there. I want to look at acquisition opportunities. Again, they're kind of putting their money where their mouth is,
Yep.
right? In stepping up for growth. And we're well equipped to serve them because we can bring the middle and back office. They can deliver the front office. They can create their own unique local culture. And that 1-2 combination, I think, presents a really compelling value prop
Yep.
as advisors continue to move to independence. So, look, an individual practice with phenomenal organic growth, I think we're very well equipped to serve them operationally and to create leverage there. Um, but when it comes to actually being able to move the needle and drive growth from the concurrent side of things, I think what we're seeing is it's in that transitionary phase of practice to enterprise.
Mhm. So when you're seeing firms, from the seat you sit in, seeing firms with solid organic growth, what is usually the driver of that? Is it still a good referral engine, or what are you seeing?
It's interesting. Every advisor you talk to and you say, "Hey, what's driving that growth?" It's it's referrals. I do a great job. I provide world-class service. That's kind of meh.
Us marketers love that, by the way.
That's great. It's great. It's very differentiated, right? I think the firms that are doing it well, right, they tend to be hitting a very specific niche.
Yep.
That's a key to it. I think they're not trying to be everything to everyone. They know what services appeal to that niche. They're marketing specifically those services. And then the referrals that they're getting as a result of it, right, tend to be, they're replicating their top clients because they're providing a unique solution set to serve that specific top client, right? So I think the niche marketing firms tend to be the ones that are what I would say from an organic growth standpoint have it dialed in.
Yep.
I think that's what we're seeing most often. Business owners is a good example. We have a couple of firms that are SEPA designations, serving business owners, and really providing a full suite of whether it's consultation on business valuation, right? Things like that are really equipped to serve those individuals. They tend to do really well.
I'm glad you said that. I was actually going to say, so we work with one of the advisors on your platform to do exactly that. And he's focused on utility companies. He sits right in the office complex with a bunch of the utility companies. They're all doing a bunch of layoffs, and we are getting after them. And he's seeing some good lead generation flow from that, and I love watching it. I'm hoping that particular firm can turn it into some good business. That's the point that we're at right now, where he has to like take all the opportunities and turn them into something. But I love that as an example. They're doing a nice job, and you're so spot on. Because from my view, we get so many firms that come to us and say, "Can you help us?" I'm like, "Yes." Who are we going after? Who are we targeting? And they're like, "Well, they need to have $2 million in investable assets." And I'm like, I'm not for you. We're not for you.
Exactly.
You have to think through it a little bit more than that, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And being able to create the content. I mean, that's one thing that I know we've worked together from a inorganic growth standpoint, advisor marketing standpoint of how can we kind of wear on our sleeve what we're all about and who we serve. But it's always interesting. And I've loved some of the advice that you and your team have given us around, how do we have to really create content. I think no one can say it better than we can. We know our product, we know who we are. It's how do we get that out on paper? How do we bottle that secret sauce and get it into a format that, we can use effectively to cast the net?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I feel like we could talk about, guys, if you haven't hit their website, I mean, Nate has an endless amount of strategic moves that he and his firm are making. If you're not watching them, you should be, because it's a fun watch for sure. I'm excited for you guys. And your marketing leader, a shout out to her, keeps us on our toes. Like, we can always just tell that you guys are moving 6 million miles an hour. I know that she's on the higher end of that. I've got her pegged. But yeah, she keeps us on our toes. We never know what we're going to get hit with, and we're always excited to see. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun, no doubt.
Yeah. Okay, so the premise of the show is all the stupid things that we've done and we'd like others to learn from. I'm a firm believer that we learn better from our mistakes than our wins. So Nate, tell us, what are we not doing today?
So I'm pulling this one. This is going deep from the archives. So I know we've talked about this. I played college football. And so I had a great running backs coach during my time there. And, he was a huge John Wooden fan. So I think we heard every John Wooden quote in the book, but this one I think is particularly applicable to what we're talking about. And one thing that he would say all the time, and that I find myself now saying all the time within our organization, is never mistake activity for achievement.
I love it.
So, I think it has a different context in football versus what we do now. Although I like to say it's still a full contact sport. I know before the call today, we were talking about getting the butterflies even before. This is, how many episodes have you done now?
A lot. Yeah. And I still get nervous every time.
I always equate that, before going on stage at a conference or doing a podcast like this, it's like, it always brings me back to that like opening kickoff for the game, that first contact. Like, you're sitting out there. It doesn't matter if you've played in 40 games, like in your college career, you still get those jitters and you get that nervousness. So I found that I welcome it now. It's like, all right, I'm still alive. I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in the context of what we do, right, it's that idea of we really want to be purposeful and we want to be focused on outcomes. I think it's easy to get wrapped up in, hey, we're putting out work product, or we're having, 100 different conversations around something, it's like, look, let's just get to the point, buckle down and do it. And I think it's also, that mentality has also contributed hugely to our culture, right? We don't want to be a cult of busy. We don't want to be an environment where you're measured and you're wearing a badge of honor because you worked 60 hours or 80 hours that
Right.
week. Like, that's not the
Yes.
point. I don't care if you worked 5 hours. If we got the job done, if we got the outcome that we were looking for, great,
Awesome.
right? Like, that's the important piece.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Okay. So you're speaking to my heart right now. I'm going to just open the kimono on intentionally for a second. Um, I feel like I have built my career on being a crazy person towards meeting goals. Like that's just what it is. I am like obsessed with goals. And I think it intentionally, the teams we all have there's so many things in marketing and it's like you can create the most beautiful piece of content. You can have a beautiful brand. You could set up the campaigns so expertly and the things could still not work. And sometimes it's shocking what works versus what doesn't. And so I do spend a lot of time with my team talking about we have to be a little less crazy about how we get there and a little more crazy about where we're getting to the point where we just added another person and your team probably noticed this. We just added another person to every team that is supposed to take away from the account lead every single thing getting in the way of that getting to the outcome. So they'll
Yeah.
worry about all the stuff. And that team lead now, all they have to worry about is are they hitting the client's goals? Like that's all they want. I want them to answer to. So we just went through, when we were talking previously, I didn't tell you that, but that's an exercise that we just went through internally because you're so right. Like at the end of the day, it's so much less important how you get there.
Exactly. Well, and we started, so we actually just wrapped up. We do quarterly meetings as a leadership team. And, one of the exercises we went through is like, what's the one thing between now and the end of the quarter or the end of the year, right? That
Yeah.
that we need to get accomplished to be on track for each individual department. And how does that roll up to our firm level objectives? And what I have each of our leadership team members do is go through and really look at, okay, if we accomplish this one thing, what impact does that have on the firm, on you individually, on your team, and what are impediments, right, to getting that done? And what we found is that by making it about, okay, what's the impact that it has at kind of in all of the different stakeholders and the firm as a whole, I think it makes it a little bit more personal, right? And it causes them to push a little bit harder and drive a little bit harder towards it. So
Love
that's
it.
been a really productive exercise. Going back to that entrepreneur journey, it wasn't always that way. Like we've muddled around in a bunch of other
Yeah.
unproductive ways to try to get to setting goals and objectives. And I think at the end of the day, we've just really tried to simplify it. And I think another thing that we've done really well in that arena, I guess this might be another one. So if you give me, like, if I could do two, can I
Deal.
do one more?
Yes,
Because
of
because
course.
it's related.
Do
It's
it.
related.
Go for it.
It's that idea of like, don't let perfect get in the way of good, right? A lot of if you're in an organization like intentionally, like concurrent, where we're constantly evolving and growing, right, and expanding our service offering and things like that. You mentioned even this year, like we've launched an asset management business, right?
Yes.
Wellselect.io, which you guys did the website for, which is great. Lots
Awesome.
of good
Yeah,
content on there.
good.
We bought an institutional consulting business. We're executing on our core business model of bringing in really high caliber independent wealth management teams. So again, a lot of different pieces out there. If at any one of those initiatives we had said, okay, let's stay in the lab until it's perfect, we would have none of that off the ground. Um, we're in the process of doing a roadshow right now. With I'm going out on the road with our head of investments, Eddie Ogston, meeting with a lot of our teams to talk about our platform. And that started as a model business, and now all of a sudden it's evolved into what it's become, and that's a result of meeting with our teams in the field, understanding their objections, understanding their needs, and iterating it forward. And so now what we've landed on with Well Select is it's not a model business. Sure, there's some stuff off the shelf that you can take down, but really what it is it's an outsourced chief investment officer for your independent practice.
Yep.
Where now it's heavy duty consulting to design an investment program for the individual team, right? Where we're doing a high level of customization in the underlying sleeves, really handling the backstage functions of it and allowing them to continue to be the star of the show from an end client perspective. that's a far cry from where it started. But it came as a result of not letting perfect get in the way of good, and really iterating it to find something that, our advisors truly need and truly value.
I love it. So, so I worked obviously at Orion, and I feel like Eric, if you're listening, Eric, I love you, but I feel like Eric's way of making things happen sometimes would just be to start talking about it. So I remember he was on the main stage of a conference and he was like, yeah, and Kelly's building this tool that's going to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm sitting
Right.
there like, I'm what? Well, don't you know, then he worked my butt
Start
off to
building the
build the
team.
tool
The
because
tool, yeah.
we started getting calls about this solution that didn't exist yet. And I have carried a little bit of that forward to intentionally, where I don't try to blindside my team, but I do. You start talking about things, you start telling clients, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're capable of, then it sort of creates some push to get everybody on that journey. How is it that you get your team to sort of rally behind some of these things?
It's funny that you say that, because I definitely like think things out through socializing them, and
Mhm.
and typically I'm socializing them with our advisors. So it comes out to, and you can look at whether it's our investment platform and what we're doing there. We're building out. Jeremy Musulo, is our head of operations, has been building out our central ops function. Again, something else where it's, hey,
Yeah.
you could tap into whether it's financial planning resources, virtual admin resources, all on a fractional basis, and a lot of this stuff has been kind of born, through necessity, right? But yeah, in a lot of ways, I can relate to that, of kind of speaking it into fruition,
Fruition. Yeah.
right, wrong, or indifferent. I get, our chief of staff also, Ashley Chaffin, like, is tries to. She's like, "Are you sure? Is this what you want our culture to be? Like, is this what you want to create?" But I guess at the end of the day, it's an output, not an input. So here we are.
Hey, secrets of leaders. You have to find creative ways to get things move forward, I think, every now and then, right?
Exactly right.
Okay, so we are not letting perfect get in the way of good, for sure, so that we can actually accomplish some things. And I feel like give everybody g- just give everybody some tips for how to do that, because it is hard. It's like hard to ship something that you're not like
Yeah.
totally bought into and totally ready to show the world, and sometimes early adopters end up getting a half finished like how do you feel, how do you get okay with it?
Yeah, right. Because you don't want to be out there. I think at the end of the day, you have to. It has to start with, you know understanding the core problem you're looking to solve. Right now, you might not be trying to solve it the right way, but if you really believe in, okay, this is something that we need to solve for. Going back to the investment example, 5, 6, 7 years ago, we talked about the pendulum swinging on the appetite for minority investment in businesses. I think the pendulum has swung pretty hard as well on the appetite to outsource the investment process. In a lot of ways, if I think about, when we started Concurrent almost 10 years ago now, right, most advisors view a huge part of their value prop being the fact that they manage the assets,
Right.
right? And that was a big part of the value add.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you're seeing is an acknowledgement that really investment management's a commodity. The value add comes in the planning process and the relationships. And so, as a result of that, we had a number of advisors that said, "Hey, look, I need a deeper bench on the investment side. I need help on the operations of it. Right? There's got to be a more efficient way to do this, whether through people or technology. So I'm not spending the time that I'm spending in this lower value area, which is preventing me from spending the time in the highest value areas." And so I think, that's where this all started. And
Yeah.
again, it was first, let's build a model business. Hey,
Right.
take this stuff off the shelf and use it. Okay, well, as a result of kind of rolling that out, thinking we were solving the right problem, um, we got a lot of feedback. And it was, well, I still have views that I want expressed, right, in these models. And I have different segments that I'm serving that might not be a great fit for what's on the shelf. I need a degree of customization here. We have expanding product availability out there, right? So all of a sudden it started to point to, okay, we have the core issue that we're trying to solve for. The first phase, we didn't quite go about it the right way. So let's think about how we then gather those objections, right? Gather that input, incorporate a high degree of authorship from the end user, which I think is another key piece here. Know the problem, incorporate authorship from the end user, and with that, they take ownership of the solution. And I think that's where we've had success in doing it. But it all starts with having a high degree of confidence in, this. There's a need for us to solve this, whether you know exactly how to do it yet, much less important.
It's so interesting you say that. So one of the first don't do that's that I did was with Ainsley Simmons from BNY, and I just love her. And she has etched in my brain a quote that she said that was, be obsessed with the problem and flexible on the solution. And I love it. And I remind myself of that all the time. Like, the problem isn't changing, but we've got to constantly be changing how we're getting to the best outcome. The other thing I just wanted to tell you that I thought of when you were talking about being action and outcome oriented. So my counterpart when I was running marketing for eMoney Advisor many years ago at this point was Drew DiMarino. He's now leading the growth effort over at Zox. But he, I was like in my 20s and knew nothing. And he was just like, write it down and put it in front of your face. It better be in front of your face every single day. What are you working towards? What are you working towards? Write it down. And I, to this day, like, still do that every year. Like, write it down, make sure it's visible in front of my face every single day. It sounds so stupid, right? Like, so silly.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're staring yourself in the mirror alongside this goal that you've given yourself every single day, I feel like you're much more likely to hit it.
Well, that's actually like scientifically proven too. Yeah. I was reading a book and it was talking about a study that they did. It was like a sports psychology study, and they had it was like an ex-Marine or Navy SEAL that had run like 50 marathons. So like super high endurance, trained to be the best of the best, hyper competitive. And what they did in this study is they had them come in, and they had like a treadmill that they would steadily increase the incline of. They'd have them walk until the point where they couldn't walk anymore, right? Like till failure, basically.
Yep.
And the first time they had them come in, and it was just a treadmill in a blank room. Nothing, couldn't tell how long he'd been walking. There was no measures, right, around him.
Yeah.
Walked for, I think it was like 26 minutes, right? In the initial one. Had no idea.
Yeah.
The person that came in with the study said, hey, you made it 28 minutes. Do you think next week when you come in, can you make it 28 minutes and 10 seconds? And he's like, all right, I'm going to train and I'm going to do it. I'm going to come in ready, right? The next week he came in, had a clock on the wall.
Yeah.
Made it 28 minutes and 17 seconds, right? Because they had that frame of reference, and then they proceeded to do it again. Yeah. Every time the visual wasn't there, every time it wasn't in front of him, he would perform much lower. So not only, anecdotally does it work, but there's science behind what you're doing there too.
Okay. So my friend Drew isn't just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. He's got some real, I think it's good. I think we should all, I think as a takeaway from this, we're not letting perfect get in the way of good. Certainly. And we have a bias towards action and outcomes, and we should all walk out of here and write down, what are we doing? What are we working towards? What are our goals? Look at it every day. This is a good reminder to me to make sure I keep doing that too. But I love it, Nate. I think these are all such good things. I love watching you guys hustle. It's so awesome. I love all the strategic moves you're making. It's like you're playing chess while everybody else is chilling with a checkers board. And we obviously love working with your team. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely.
And I feel like we can talk forever. So we'll probably do this again sometime.
That sounds good. The feeling is mutual, Kelly. One thing I'll say, if anyone's looking for a place to write down their goals, in our office, like, no window is safe, and we've got dry erase markers everywhere. So
awesome.
Windows make great whiteboards.
Windows are fair game. I love it. All right, Nate, thank you so much.
Thanks, Kelly.
Sure. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe to be notified when new episodes become available. And please consider giving us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. This podcast is sponsored by Intentionally, a financial services growth engine design consultancy and agency. If you want to learn more, please email me at kelly@growintentionally.com. Thank you again for listening, and check back to hear what we're not doing next.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Kelly Waltrich. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only.